Today I want to talk about what it is to be a human being from the perspective of social interactions, because as human beings we live with other human beings. And in fact, right from the dawn of creation, God said, Lo tov heyot adam levado, it's not good for a person to be alone, and therefore He created human beings to work together and to be part of society together. And that interaction that we have with other people, that brings with it enormous challenge and enormous opportunity at the same time. In essence, to be a human being is to live in society and to engage with other people. And the question that we have to ask ourselves, how do we view the people around us? Do we view the people around us as competitors for scarce resources, or are we collaborators to make the world into a better place? Now, competitiveness is a natural part of what it is to be a human being. It is a normal part of human nature to be competitive, and yet with that competitiveness comes anxiety, conflict, jealousy, and yet on the other hand, from that competitiveness comes human excellence. Our sages actually point this out in a number of different ways. First, in the area of commerce and the economy. In a careful analysis of the Gemara and the Halacha reveals that, in fact, our sages support the idea of a free market and for people to trade freely and to compete freely against each other. As they say in the Gemara in Baba Basra, I'm working in my space and I'm competing and building a business in my space. You build it in your space. That is part of what the Halacha encourages. But more than that, the Mishnah in Bava Metzia actually has a discussion between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim about different business practices, whether they can be aggressive advertising practices. And one very interesting discussion is Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo yifchot et ashar, that one competitor should not undercut the accepted market price because he's really taking parnos away from another. But Chachamim respond and say, not only is it permissible, but zachur letov, a person who undercuts the market and brings down prices should be remembered for a blessing for goodness, because look at the benefit that they've brought society. And our sages also say, even in the context of Torah and of Torah education, it says, Kinas sofrim tarbe chochma, says the Gemara, that the jealousy and competition between the Torah scholars actually increases knowledge and wisdom. So the competitive edge and that desire to beat another person, to win the prize, to do better than somebody else, that natural human competitiveness brings out excellence. It makes society better. It increases the economy, helps the economy to grow. It also increases Torah knowledge. So it's something that Hashem put into us, which is very positive. And yet on the other hand, there's a lot of negativity that comes with it as well. And how do we find the balance between the competitive edge versus the idea of collaboration and partnership? This is always what we discuss in the context of Pirkei Avos, finding that middle path and finding something that is not just the neutral middle path, but something that actually opens up a completely different way of looking at it. And you'll see that it relates to a very important mitzvah in this week's Parsha, which we'll come to in a moment. But first, the Mishnah that perhaps sums this whole discussion up about how we relate to other people is a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos in the Siddur notations, chapter 5, Mishnah 13, where it says, Arba midos ba'adam. There are 4 major character traits within a human being. Ha'omer sheli sheli v'shelcha shelcha. Person who says what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. Or a person who says the Mishnah, Zumida Beinunus. This is the average person, and some even say it's the approach of Stom, which is a selfishness, which we'll come to in a moment. Another approach is to say, Sheli shelcha v'shelcha sheli. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. This is the way of the Am Haaretz, which we'll discuss in a moment. Sheli shelcha, person who says what's mine is yours, and what's yours is saintly, and one who says what's yours is mine, and what's mine is Rasha, is wicked. Now, how do we understand all of this? Let's start by saying what the Mishnah is not saying. The Mishnah is not dealing with practicalities, meaning, as we've already seen, the halacha, Jewish law, endorses property rights, the free market. We're not talking about anything of the nature of commercial interactions. We're also not talking in the literal sense of tzedakah. When it says the saintly person says, what's mine is yours, it doesn't mean that he gives up everything. The Gemara is very clear, and the Maharal makes this point on the Mishnah, that a person is not allowed to give more than a fifth of their wealth or their earnings to tzedakah, because that actually could bring poverty upon them, and so the first responsibility a person has is to themselves. So when it says that a saintly person says what's mine is yours, it doesn't mean it in the literal sense. We're talking here actually about the philosophical sense, or actually what the Mishnah says, arba midos ba'adam, the character traits of it. Because again, Pirkei Avos, when it deals with the concepts of tzedakah and of giving and of kindness, it's never going to deal with it in the halachic terms. That's what we've learned over all of the weeks of the series. It's going to go to the root and the essence and the heart of the human being. And so that what it's touching on here is the defining essence of the person. There are two dimensions that the Meforshim say. One is like the Rav and the Tosfos Yom Tov say, that the Mishnah is talking about just general benefit. When it says what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, or yours is mine, it's talking about giving benefit to one another, helping one another in the broader sense of the word. Rabbeinu Yonah focuses it very specifically on the mitzvah of tzedakah, of charity. And then he raises this question, because part of what it says there, a person who says, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. One opinion in the Mishnah says that's an average person. Another opinion in the Mishnah says that is the way of Sodom, of selfishness. Now, he said, how could there be a debate amongst the sages about such a person? I mean, how can one group say this is average and the other say it's selfish? What's really going on here? And he says, you're talking about a person who actually does give tzedakah. Rabbeinu Yonah learns the Mishnah in the context of tzedakah, of giving charity to the poor. And such a person actually gives. But the debate is, when they give with the philosophy of what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. Even though they're actually going through the act of giving, it is a philosophy that says this is mine, and because I'm so nice and kind, I'm going to give it to you, but really what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, and I don't owe this to you. And he said it's coming from a philosophy of stinginess and of self-centeredness, but he still keeps the mitzvah of tzedakah. Now, I want to try and understand that in the context of this week's Parsha, because the major source for the mitzvah of tzedakah comes from this week's Parsha, Parshat Re'eh. And the Parsha tells us in chapter 15, it says that if you come across a poor person, your poor brother in one of your gates, and he needs, and he's asking that you should give him, it says, Lo ta'ametz et levavcha. Do not harden your heart. That's how it's often translated. But this is the interesting word, ta'ametz. The root of this word, ta'ametz, is the Hebrew word ematz, which is, like we say, chazak ve'ematz, be strong and courageous. The word ematz means to be strong. So what does it mean, lo ta'ametz, do not be strong? Why is that the verb that the Chumash is using in this context? And I think it may be because of this. You see, the natural human emotion is to feel compassion. You see a poor person who doesn't have, they're destitute, and they're asking you, and you want to naturally give to them. So what does it mean, do not strengthen your heart? Why would a person not give if they really feel sorry? They would not give because they feel anxious. Will they have enough? How can I give him? Will I have enough for myself and my family? How will I survive? If I give away my money to charity, will I not impoverish myself? Will there be enough for me? I may have enough for today, but what about tomorrow? So then a person almost makes like a calculated, mercenary decision. I feel sorry for this person. I want to give them, but I'm going to override my compassion and not give them because I've got to look after myself. And shali, shali, v'shilcha, shilcha. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. I have to look after what I have. And it touches on then a crucial thing here that what holds back giving, and it's not just in charity, it's generally in kindness and the way that we approach life, is a feeling of anxiety that perhaps I won't have enough. And so there are two answers to this. The one is a very deep understanding which comes from chapter 1, Mishnah 5 in Pirkei Avos, Yehi beischa pasuach lirvacha, may your home be open widely. But the Ruach Chaim, Reb Chaim Volozhner learns lirvacha means for profit. And he says, when you give tzedakah, when you open your home and when you give to people in need, you actually profit from that. Meaning Hashem makes a promise of giving abundance and wealth as a reward for charity in this world, and of course a person has reward in the next world. So it doesn't impoverish. Hashem has promised that the money will be replenished. And as we also learn in this week's Parsha, it says, Aser ta'aser, it's talking about the tithes. Aser kadesha titasher, you give a tenth and you will find wealth. That is a promise, and it's one of the few places the Shulchan Aruch says that one is actually allowed to test Hashem. Such a thing is brought. So the first answer to the person who says, I want to give, but I can't give because what about myself and my family? The first answer is there's blessing and abundance and wealth that comes from it. But the answer is actually much deeper than that. There's an amazing Mishnah here in chapter 5, Mishnah 16. It says, Arba midos benosnei tzedakah. There are 4 character traits in those who give charity. The one who wants harotze sheyitain v'lo yitnu acherim. He wants to give charity, but he doesn't want others to give. And the Mishnah says such a person is eino ra'a b'shel acherim. He has a miserly eye of selfishness with regards to other people. And the amazing thing, what the Rav, the Mefarshim explained on this Mishnah. This is a person who recognizes that giving tzedakah is a great bracha. And it will bring bracha in your life, in this world and the next world. But he wants to keep it all for himself. He wants he wants to be the one to give, and he doesn't want others to give. The Mishnah has different combinations. There are those who don't want to give themselves and they want others to give, and there are those who will give themselves and they want others to give. Those are the people with the greatest sense of abundance, and that is a chassid, a righteous person. There are those who don't want to give and don't want others to give. That's a rasha, that's a wicked person. But this person who wants to give but doesn't want others to give, it says eino ra'ah. He doesn't want others to achieve and to do well. And he doesn't want others to have this merit. Now that is a fascinating piece of psychology where he understands tzedakah, he wants to give, but he doesn't want others to. And it's broader. It's not just about tzedakah, it's about all things. Do you want others to succeed? The Tosfot Yom Tov links it to a later Mishnah where it talks about the midah of Bilam and Avraham. Also there in chapter 5 where it says that Bilam has the negative eye and Avraham has the positive eye, the eye in Tova, where a generosity of spirit. You see, generosity of the pocket and generosity of action starts with the generosity of spirit, and generosity of spirit means you want others to succeed. We're not just talking about, you see, there's a knee-jerk human reaction. You see poverty and suffering. You want to help. You want to do something that'll make it better. That's a knee-jerk emotional response to a situation. There is something much deeper and more broad here, and that is, do you want others to succeed or not? And that touches on a much deeper thing, which is, do you look at the world as a world of abundance or scarcity? Okay, Stephen Covey speaks about this, the abundance mentality and the scarcity mentality. I'm just mentioning it because I heard that phrase, him use that phrase, but the truth is, as we're going to see now in the sources, our sages had these insights thousands of years ago. I'm just referencing it because people may be familiar with that term. But the abundance mentality is exactly what our sages are talking about. In chapter 4, Mishnah 1, when they ask this question, Eizuhu Ashir, who is a wealthy person? Hasamech bechelko, or someone who is happy with the lot that Hashem has given them. Now notice the Mishnah does not say who is a happy person. That's another question. It's talking about an ashir, and it's saying ashir is wealth. A wealthy person is defined by a mentality, not by the actual money in the bank account. You can have a wealthy person who feels impoverished, and you can have an impoverished person who feels wealthy. It's a question of an abundance mentality, which comes from this thing, sameach bechelko, are you happy with what you have? And what is that which you have? So that Pirkei Avos says in chapter 3, Mishnah 8, it says, ten lo mishalo, give that which belongs to Hashem, give it. In other words, invest in Torah and mitzvahs and tzedakah and everything, she'ata v'shilcha shelo, because you and everything you own belongs to Hashem, which means this. The root of the abundance mentality is that Hashem is abundant. Hashem has no limits. There is no limit in this world. There can be enough for everybody. There is enough for everybody, because whatever a person is allocated is because Hashem wants them to have that. It's not because there is less around. The abundance mentality understands, I don't have less because you have more, and you don't have less because I have more. You have what you have, I have what I have, because Hashem has granted, Hashem can produce whatever is needed for the world, and therefore one doesn't have to feel afraid of scarcity. We live with abundance, knowing that things are the way they should be. But these are two worldviews. You see, you have the worldview of Darwinism, atheism, survival of the fittest. Notice how it's even couched. The whole of existence and creation from that perspective is a world of scarcity, where there's a fight for survival and everyone's scrounging around, a scramble for scarce resources. Even notice the terms that is used in Western culture: dog eat dog, the rat race. Animal culture, animal imagery, because it's saying the human being is like an animal, because in Darwinism there's no soul, there's no creator, it's just a scramble for scarce resources. On the other hand, we have a Borei Olam, a creator of this world, who said everything he saw and it was good. It is a world filled with enough. And so that's why, paradoxically, in chapter 2, Mishnah 8, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos there says, Marbe nechasim, marbe daiga. Marbe tzedakah, marbe shalom. A person, increased possessions. The more possessions you have, the more anxiety. And the more charity, the more peace. You would think it's exactly the opposite. You would think, where does peace of mind come from, in a sense of security that you have what you need is when you accumulate lots of things. But actually what it's saying is, why does a person accumulate? They accumulate because they feel they don't have enough. There's never enough. So if that's your approach of a scarcity mentality, that I have to accumulate as much as possible because I'm worried about the future, because I'm holding on to it, because who knows what tomorrow brings, such a person is fraught with anxiety, because what will tomorrow bring? On the other hand, a person who has the confidence, the faith in Hashem, the trust in Hashem to give tzedakah will find inner peace, because they're a person who sees abundance, not scarcity. And now we go back to that original Mishnah that we spoke about. A person who says, Sheli, Sheli, v'shilcha, shilcha, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours, is saying, I have to hold on to what I have. Sees the world in a scarcity way. You also a person who says, Sheli, shilcha, v'shilcha, sheli, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. The Mishnah calls them an ama aretz. Now, the Rav Avadim Bar Tanura says that doesn't mean an ignorant person. What it means in this case is a man of the land, of society, wants to build up human civilization. You see, in the scarcity mentality, what you do is you transact. So you say, look, we're going to barter. We're going to create. I don't want to just be what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, because then I'm going to live and survive on my own. I understand that I need other people to survive in the world. So, we're going to transact. What's mine is mine. What's mine is yours, because what's yours is mine. Let's exchange. It's all built from a utilitarian sense of transactional selfishness. Whereas the Chassid says, listen, what's yours is yours and what's mine is yours. I want to help you. I want you to do better in the world. I don't need to take your things. Hashem will take care of me, but I want you to do better. It's a whole approach, like the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says in chapter 2, Mishnah 17. Let the money and the property of your fellow be as dear to you as your own. And in chapter 4, Mishnah 15, it says, let the honor of your fellow be as dear to you as your own. Meaning, I want you to have money, I want you to have wealth, I want you to succeed, I want you to have honor and respect and social recognition. I want you to have all of these things, because I want you to do better, because there's enough for all of us. I don't need to take it away from you for me to do better. Hashem will look after and give us each what we need. Samech b'chelko. Hashem has given a portion for each of us. So it's trust in Hashem, it's trust in the abundance of the world, and it's another thing. It's a trust in the abundance of people. You see, I tell you what goes to the heart of the whole theory of the false theory of Darwinism and the atheism and the survival of the fittest. It creates and sees human beings as competitors, as consumers who consume resources. When you have another philosophy, because our philosophy of God as the creator also means God created human beings. Chaviv ha'adam shenivra b'tzelem, says the Mishnah in chapter 3, Mishnah 18. Beloved is the human being created in God's image, which because we have the abundance that God, meaning the more people there are, the more abundance will be created because God gave us the power to create and to produce. Human beings are not just consumers of resources, we are producers of resources. We create, there's abundance. And so if you are doing better, then I'm also going to do better. It's an understanding that there is greatness within every person. And that affects the way that we view, the secularist view of the world is that the greatest threat, and it was this famous book in 1968, The Population Bomb, was all about saying there's going to be overpopulation in the world, which will destroy all the resources. And they're now saying the very opposite. There's a new book out in 2025 called The Spike, and it's saying the greatest threat to the future of humanity is depopulation of the globe. Because human beings, this is what Hashem told us, Pru-Ravu, go out, be fruitful and multiply. Human beings create abundance and greatness, and the more others succeed, the more there's going to be for all of us. You see, the whole philosophy here is when one's giving tzedakah and you're helping people, you're helping human beings created in God's image to flourish. That's why the Parsha says, Al ta'amitz levavcha. Don't be disciplined and harden your heart and be too strong with people. Allow the natural compassion to flow, because when you give to others, you lift them up. And when you lift them up, you lift yourself up and you lift the whole world up. When you're helping the people around you, whether it's with tzedakah, or whether it's with advice, or love, or support, or partnership, or compassion, or encouragement, all of those things, you make their lives better, but you make your life better, because we are all in it together. And when we see that, we see a world of abundance, of divine abundance, abundance of the human spirit to create goodness and blessing. And that's why, and this is the final point, the Sforno says, when this Mishnah says we should strive that what's mine is yours and what's yours is yours, he said, you know what that is? That is to become like Hashem. It says, Tov Hashem lakol, he's good to everybody. Hashem knows that he's got enough within him and goodness that everybody can thrive. And we have to strive for that divine greatness, that we see the success and the blessing of others as our success and blessing. And then we think, how can we help them achieve their full? And when we do that, we make this world a place filled with divine abundance. Thank you.